The holographic display flickered with the approach of humanity's fleet, and Admiral Zethkar couldn't suppress the clicking sound that passed for laughter among his species. Around the command bridge of the Eternal Dominion, his fellow hegemony, officers shared in his amusement, their scaled faces contorting into expressions of barely contained mirth. "Look at them," Zethkar gestured with one of his forearms toward the tactical display. 63 vessels, crude angular things that looked like they were welded together in a scrapyard. Fleet Admiral Vex Thule of the Crystalline Concordat leaned forward in her floating command chair, her translucent body shimmering with what her species displayed as condescension. "I count only 12 capital ships among them. The rest appear to be, what do the humans call them? Destroyers? Frigates? How quaint." The third member of their impromptu alliance, Supreme Commander Rathgol of the Iron Brotherhood, allowed his metallic jaw to unhinge slightly, his species equivalent of a sneer. "My analysis indicates their largest vessel mass is only 800,000 tons. My flagship alone outweighs their entire battle line." They had reason for confidence. The joint fleet arrayed against humanity numbered over 400 ships, representing the three most powerful military forces in known space. Each of the three flagships was a mobile fortress, bristling with weapons that could crack planets, and shields that had never been breached in centuries of warfare. Zethkar pulled up the intelligence reports on humanity's military capabilities. "According to our data, they've been spacefaring for barely 2 centuries. They've fought exactly 3 interstellar conflicts, all against species we would classify as minor powers. They have no significant defensive technologies, no energy shields worth mentioning, and their weapons technology is primitive. Kinetic projectiles and crude missiles," Vexithol added with disdain. "They still use chemical propulsion for some of their systems. It's almost adorable." The human fleet had been approaching for 6 hours, and long-range scans revealed exactly what the alien admirals expected: vessels that looked more like industrial equipment than proper warships, covered in what appeared to be crude armor plating and sensor arrays that seemed almost comically oversized. "They're not even attempting evasive maneuvers," Rathgol observed. "They're flying in a straight line directly toward us. Either they're supremely confident or supremely stupid." "Given their technological limitations," Zethkar replied, "I'd wager on the latter." The communication array chimed, indicating an incoming transmission from the human fleet. Zethkar nodded to his communications officer, and moments later, the image of a human female appeared on the main screen. She wore what appeared to be a simple military uniform, devoid of the elaborate decorations and ceremonial elements that marked high rank among civilized species. "This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Terran Federation Navy," the human said, her voice carrying none of the expected deference when addressing superior military forces. "You have been given multiple opportunities to withdraw from Terran space. This is your final warning." The 3 alien admirals exchanged glances before Zethkar responded, unable to keep the amusement from his voice. "Admiral Chen, you appear to be somewhat confused about the tactical situation. We represent 3 of the galaxy's premier military powers. Your fleet is outnumbered 6 to 1, and our individual flagships possess more firepower than your entire battle group. Surely a reasonable discussion." "You have 10 minutes to begin your withdrawal," Chen interrupted, her expression unchanging. "After that, we will consider you a hostile force and respond accordingly." The transmission ended. "The audacity," Vexthul whispered. "Do they truly believe they can threaten us?" Zethkar was no longer amused. "Perhaps we should teach them the reality of their situation. All ships prepare to demonstrate our capabilities. Target their lead vessel with a minimal charge, just enough to disable their engines and force their surrender." The order went out across the joint fleet, and moments later, Rathgol's flagship fired a single plasma beam, a weapon that had previously vaporized entire orbital installations. The beam struck the human flagship dead center, and did absolutely nothing. "What?" Zethkar stared at the tactical display in disbelief. "Scan that vessel immediately." The sensor readings made no sense. The human ship showed no energy shielding, no deflector fields, Nothing that should have been able to absorb a direct hit from a heavy plasma cannon, yet there it sat, completely undamaged. "Sir," his sensor officer reported, voice trembling. I'm reading mass density readings that don't match the visual profile. That human vessel. It's not 800,000 tons. It's reading at over 40 million tons. Impossible. Recalibrate immediately." "Sir, I've run the scans 4 times. These readings are correct. All human vessels are showing similar mass discrepancies." Admiral Chen's voice crackled across all communication frequencies simultaneously. Somehow the humans had overridden their secure channels. "Gentlemen, ladies, and other distinguished beings, allow me to clarify something about human engineering. Philosophy. We don't build starships. We build mobile fortresses that happen to travel between stars." On the tactical display, the human ships began to change. What had appeared to be crude sensor arrays and communication equipment began retracting, folding away like petals of a mechanical flower. Beneath the disguise, the true nature of humanity's vessels revealed itself. They were flying weapons platforms, each one bristling with thousands of weapon ports that had been hidden beneath false plating. The primitive armor wasn't armor at all. It was ablative camouflage designed to hide the true dimensions and capabilities of vessels that were more massive than many space stations. "You see," Chen continued, "we learned something important during our first contact with galactic civilization. Everyone assumes they understand human capabilities based on our apparent technology level. They see chemical rockets and kinetic weapons and assume we're primitives. What they fail to realize is that sometimes the old ways work better than anyone expects." The human fleet opened fire. What emerged from their weapons wasn't the crude kinetic projectiles the aliens had expected. These were relativistic kill vehicles, projectiles accelerated to significant fractions of light speed by magnetic acceleration systems built into the very structure of each human vessel. When they impacted the alien shields, they didn't bounce off or get absorbed. They punched straight through, carrying enough kinetic energy to shatter molecular bonds and reduce hull plating to constituent atoms. Vex Thul's flagship, the pride of the crystalline concordate, lasted approximately 4 seconds before a stream of projectiles moving at 30% of light speed turned it into an expanding cloud of superheated plasma. "Impossible!" Rathgol screamed into his communicator. "Return fire! All vessels, return fire!" But the human vessels were no longer where his targeting systems expected them to be. Those oversized sensor arrays hadn't been sensors at all. They were thruster assemblies. And now the human ships were accelerating and maneuvering with the agility of fighter craft despite their massive size. The space around the human fleet filled with defensive fire, streams of plasma, particle beams, and quantum torpedoes that should have been capable of destroying entire worlds. But the human vessels seemed to dance between the attacks, their movements precise and calculated as though they had anticipated every shot. "They're not just heavily armed," Zethkar realized with growing horror. "They're using predictive algorithms. They're firing at where our ships are going to be, not where they are." The sky around them began to burn as human weapons found their marks. Ships that had ruled space lanes for millennia died in seconds, their crews never understanding how vessels they had dismissed as primitive had managed to outfight them so completely. Admiral Chen's voice cut through the chaos one final time. "You should know something about humans, Admiral. We don't fight fair. We don't fight honorably. We fight to win. And we've been preparing for this fight since the day we learned we weren't alone in the universe." As his own flagship shuddered under impacts that somehow penetrated shields designed to withstand the output of stars, Admiral Zethkar finally understood the truth about humanity. They weren't primitive. They were patient. They had allowed the galaxy to underestimate them while they built a war machine designed not for conquest, but for the absolute annihilation of anyone foolish enough to threaten their species. The last thing Zethkar saw before his ship joined the expanding field of debris was the human fleet regrouping, their weapons already turning toward the retreating survivors of the joint armada. Humanity had been laughed at for the last time. In space, no one could hear the galaxy learning to fear the sound of human laughter in return.